Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're decoding a document that fundamentally shifts exactly how your organization handles data. We're talking about the ISO 31700-1 2023 standard. If you design, test, or manage consumer digital products, well, this privacy by design framework is about to become your new playbook. Right out of the gate, this standard makes one thing absolutely clear. We've got to stop looking at privacy as just some annoying compliance hurdle. It's a bottom-line imperative. Consumers' trust and how well individual privacy needs are met are literally defining concerns for the digital economy. If personally identifiable information, or PII, is compromised because of lax or outdated practices, the consequences for the individual can be incredibly severe. And for your organization, it ultimately dictates your brand's reputation and your long-term viability. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, the new privacy standard. Second, empowering the consumer. Third, roles and risk management. Fourth, the PII lifecycle. And finally, the end of use. Section 1, the new privacy standard, setting the baseline. So let's define our core concept right away so we're all operating from the exact same baseline understanding. Privacy by design means privacy can never be a bolted-on afterthought. It's not a rushed software patch you throw in right before launch. It's a core design methodology. Privacy has to be integrated into the initial ideation stage and sustained throughout the product's entire life. The ultimate goal here is to provide robust, default protection rather than forcing the consumer to navigate a confusing maze of settings just to keep their basic data secure. Now, to actually turn those abstract goals into reality, the standard anchors everything to 3 guiding principles. First up, empowerment and transparency, making sure consumers actually have meaningful control over their information. Second, institutionalization and responsibility, weaving privacy norms permanently into the very fabric of your multifunctional teams. And third, ecosystem and lifecycle, taking a holistic approach that looks far beyond your immediate organization. Section 2, empowering the consumer, transparency, and choice. Now, what's really interesting about this is we absolutely must remember to design for the human element. Consumers aren't a monolith. The standard mandates that we account for diverse capabilities and vulnerabilities when designing configurable privacy settings. Think about a senior citizen with low IT literacy trying to secure a connected health device, or someone facing sudden job loss applying for services online. These vulnerable consumers might face severe, real-world harm if an interface is just too confusing to secure their own data effectively. So transparency is really the engine driving that empowerment. Organizations are proactively required to provide clear privacy notices, really straightforward overviews of privacy settings, and easy instructions for requesting support or filing complaints. But crucially, you've got to have resilient arrangements prepared in advance for data breach communications. If the worst happens, consumers need immediate, clear next steps, not corporate scrambling. Section 3, roles and risk management, institutionalizing accountability. Okay, the standard draws a really hard line when it comes to assigning authority, and it is vital for management to understand the critical distinction between the accountable person and the responsible party. The responsible party actually executes the delegated task. They're the ones writing the code or drafting the privacy policy. But the accountable person, they oversee the entire lifecycle risk. They approve the final work. Having a designated accountable person ensures that privacy never just falls through the cracks between siloed departments. So how does leadership actively govern all of this? Well, through mandatory, structured privacy risk assessments before a product ever goes to market. You have to really understand your broader ecosystem, map exactly where PII flows and sits, lock in your strict legal privacy requirements, and then ruthlessly prioritize those risks to build the right technical and administrative controls. It is a highly proactive, thoroughly documented process. But here's the critical catch. So, the crucial point is, your risk management doesn't stop at your office walls. Today's consumer products rely on a massive digital ecosystem. Your accountability extends to auditing and governing any third parties that process your consumers' data. You have to run serious due diligence, assess their capabilities, and lock in their obligations with ironclad contracts and service-level agreements. Section 4, the PII lifecycle, beyond the product. This is where a vital shift in perspective really has to happen for any product team. And this brilliantly illustrates why. A physical product's lifecycle starts at inception and ends in the trash bin. But the lifecycle of personally identifiable information, the PII, extends from its initial collection all the way to its secure destruction. Data often survives on servers or floating somewhere in the cloud, long after a physical device is abandoned or destroyed. Because that data lifecycle is so extensive, your privacy controls aren't just a set it and forget it kind of feature. The standard actually mandates continuous iteration. Controls must be integrated directly into your development cycles, tested ruthlessly against pre-approved acceptance criteria before launch, and monitored continuously post-release by multifunctional teams. You have to ensure that a random software update or a slight environmental shift doesn't accidentally break your privacy protections. Furthermore, because digital disruptions and cyber attacks are really a matter of when, not if, privacy risks have to be baked straight into your cybersecurity resilience design. You must stress test your incident response plans and stakeholder communications in advance. You have to be completely ready to detect an intrusion, recover from it, and notify affected consumers without missing a single beat. Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 5, the end of use, long-term stakes. We absolutely have to confront a critical reality here. Your organizational liability for PII can continue even after vendor support for the product ends. Just because you sunset a software service or a consumer tosses out a smart device, your accountability for the data sitting on your servers or trapped locally on that physical device does not just evaporate. To manage these long-term stakes, the standard outlines strict end-of-life controls. You must securely destroy sensitive data when it's no longer needed for a legitimate purpose. You need protocols for managing a consumer's digital legacy if they pass away. And you must address the privacy nightmare of the secondhand market, like when a smart fridge or a fitness tracker is sold on eBay with user data still completely accessible on it. All of these post-retirement realities must be communicated to the consumer long before you pull the plug on support. Which leaves us with a final, vital question to ensure we truly grasp the stakes of ISO 31700-1. When your product is finally retired, does your accountability for consumer data truly end? The answer is a definitive no. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and hey, here's to building more trustworthy products.